Joining us now, Foreign Policy's Christian Caryl, who believes that the notion that Rushdie was articulating was an oversimplification. Christian, thanks for joining us today. And as you come to us from Newsmax Washington, it's so good to have you. When anyone gets into the notion of just saying religion with a blanket statement, that invites widespread stereotypes. Where do you take issue with what Rushdie was saying?
Well, I was kind of taken aback by Rushdie's comment. I mean, let me say I have great respect for Rushdie. He spent a good portion of his life dodging that fatwa from Ayatollah Khomeini, who wanted to have him killed for writing a book that Khomeini and some other Muslims consider blasphemous. So, you know, I think Rushdie is a great guy for standing up for freedom of speech. But in this case, I really think he overreached to denounce all religious believers for the Charlie Hebdo massacre, which is essentially what he was doing, seems to me like a bit much.
Did you think it was irresponsible of him to say that?
Well, irresponsible seems to me a bit strong. I can understand his emotions in the heat of the moment. I do have a problem, though, with some of today's more radical atheists. There are a lot of them out there who are attacking religion very much in the way that Rushdie did. And, you know, I'm not out there to defend religion unconditionally. I do think that there are problems of intolerance in a lot of the major world religions. But I think it is really wrong to condemn all religious believers. All religions are capable of actually horrible acts of intolerance, but they're also capable of great achievements. And this is the thing that I wanted to address in my essay.
Now, there may be some, Christian, who hear what you have to say, who say, well, wait a minute. As you're trying to come to grips with this, it ignores what we faced with the Charlie Hebdo massacre, which was radical Islam, or a form of it, arguably taking action. For example, the pedestrian comment is, well, the guys who have been waging these attacks, they're not Episcopalian or Presbyterian. So is there a failure to accurately label the sources of these attacks?
No, I totally get that. And in the article, I think I take a fairly strong stand against radical Islam. I'm very opposed to blasphemy laws, for example, of the kind that exist in a lot of the Islamic world, where you can be killed simply for expressing a view that other people consider disrespectful. I think there are major problems within Islam today. I think a lot of these problems come from the fusion of a rather intolerant brand of religion and politics. You know, there are 2 million American Muslims in this country. We haven't really seen very many problems from them because they live in a free country where they're allowed to express their beliefs, they're allowed to practice their religion, and they're not criminalized or persecuted in any way for doing so. And I think that's actually kind of a good example for the rest of the world.
Christian, curious, latest studies show that there are more people that are agnostic or atheists. In fact, the numbers are growing exponentially. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think that has a lot to do with the structure of modern society, with science, with the growth of technology. A lot of the people that I see in those surveys, actually, when you ask them a little more closely, they describe themselves as, well, maybe I don't believe in traditional religion or God, but I consider myself spiritual. There's a lot of that, actually. When you dig a little deeper, it turns out that many people have a sense of the divine or of some greater spiritual force in their lives. I think that actually the instinct to belief is very deeply rooted in human beings. But, you know, if people decide they don't need it, that's fine with me. All I'm asking for is a bit of respect from those who don't believe for those who do.
And respect would be a refreshing change from what we've seen with the growing secularization of society, because that secularization is followed by satire. And there is a place for satire in a free society, but where do manners and civility take over in this discussion of faith or lack of faith in the marketplace in your mind?
Well, that's exactly the issue that we've somehow got to clarify. I mean, I have to say, of course, I'm not in favor of blasphemy. I don't like it when people insult other people's religions. I do believe that we cannot criminalize that kind of behavior. I have to make that very clear. But yes, I do see a problem with kind of growing lack of civility, a growing willingness to attack other people. I mean, I'm sure, JD, you have the same experience that I do. We both deal with the media. You know, you see what people say to you on social media every day, right? I mean, there is clearly a huge lack of just basic elemental civic culture out there. And I think actually this is a much neglected problem. We need to start working on this, perhaps even in schools. I think we've really forgotten how to live with each other in a kind of civilized and respectful way. It's pretty nasty out there.
And as you mentioned that, and really, you do offer the reference of modern technology and the social media we have, the social websites at our fingertips. Somehow, the notion of etiquette and manners has gone away. Will we see?
Well, I completely agree with that. I think it's a big problem. Every day I see examples of people just kind of ignoring the other people around them. People are, you know, engrossed by their smartphones. And don't get me wrong, I love my smartphone. I love modern technology. But it can become an excuse to ignore the people who are directly around you, other people who are members of your own community. And, you know, if religion does offer one kind of nice thing, I think it might be that sense of respect for others. That's what I would hope, at least.
So, Christian, the bottom line is you say religion is not the enemy. What is the real enemy? 20 seconds.
I think the real enemy is fanaticism, or this kind of instinct that certain people have to go really radical on their beliefs. Don't forget, most people in the 20th century were killed by atheists. They were not religious, but they were very intolerant and fanatical. That's the problem.
And that's the distinction you make in your recent piece, Religion is Not the Enemy. Christian Caryl, we thank you very much for your perspective you first shared on the pages of Foreign Policy. There is much more ahead here on America's Forum, including our debate between the right and left. We step aside for just a minute, though, for this Newsmax Now update.